She walked in calmly, poised, focused, and dressed for a billion-dollar meeting. But to the bank teller behind the counter, she was just another black woman wasting time. She did not raise her voice, she did not wear designer logos, so when she handed over her ID, what the teller did next shocked the entire lobby. And the worst part, the cameras caught everything, but no one stepped in, until someone powerful stepped out of an elevator and said one sentence that changed everything. It was just past 9:30 a.m. when Nia Jameson walked into the main branch of Hamilton First Bank downtown. The building was sleek, marble floors polished to perfection, with sunlight pouring through towering glass windows. Everyone there moved with a kind of uptight urgency. Lawyers, finance execs, suits and stilettos, all chasing something. But Nia moved differently. She wore a crisp navy pantsuit, modest heels, no flashy jewelry. Her natural hair was twisted neatly into a bun. Her eyes were calm, controlled. The only thing in her hand was a simple black leather folder. She stood in the customer service line with quiet patience. No one knew that the woman in line between two old ladies was the CEO of a fast-growing logistics firm, one that was about to enter a $2 billion international partnership, and Hamilton First was supposed to handle the accounts. But she did not announce herself. She just waited. When her turn came, she stepped forward and greeted the teller, a sharp-faced young woman named Amy. Amy glanced at her quickly. Just another tired-looking black woman, probably here to cash a refund check or ask about a loan. Nia smiled gently and said, "Good morning. I'm here to verify an account update before my legal team wires a large fund later today." Amy barely nodded. "Name?" "Nia Jameson." Amy sighed, pulled up her terminal, and said flatly, "ID." Nia reached into her folder and handed over her government-issued photo ID and a business card. Amy took one look at it, then smirked. She tapped a few keys, then paused. "CEO," she said under her breath, then added louder, "This does not look like a corporate account." Nia replied calmly, "It is under a holding company. I filed a notice with the business banking department. They asked me to confirm in person." Amy rolled her eyes. Then, with her long acrylic nails, she held the ID between two fingers like it was dirty, leaned over the counter, and dropped it to the floor. The ID landed face up on the marble right next to Nia's shoe. Amy didn't blink. Nia froze. The woman behind her gasped. A man 2 counters over looked up from his deposit slip. One security guard shifted, but said nothing. Amy turned back to her screen like nothing happened. "You can pick that up," she said coldly. Nia bent down, slowly, picked up the ID with dignity, and stood upright again. Her hand shook only slightly. Her face didn't change. But inside, the sting was sharp. Not because of the ID, but because this was still happening. She leaned in slightly and asked, "Would you like to call your business banking supervisor to verify my credentials?" Amy shrugged. "If you want to wait around, sure." Then she pressed a button and called for backup, saying loudly, "Someone is making a strange claim about a corporate account." The words rang through the quiet bank lobby. A few heads turned. Others tried to act like they weren't watching, but they were. Nia stood quietly. She did not explain herself further. She had spent years building her company from the ground up. She had flown coach while competitors took jets. She had been underestimated, dismissed, laughed out of meetings. But she had never been humiliated like this, not in public, not like a criminal. A full 5 minutes passed before the elevator near the back of the bank chimed open. A tall man in a gray tailored suit stepped out, silver streak at his temples, a gold pin on his lapel. The vice president of business operations. He looked around, then locked eyes with Nia. His face dropped, and he said one sentence that made the whole bank go silent. "Miss Jameson, we've been waiting for you upstairs." When the vice president of the bank called her Ms. Jameson and said they had been waiting for her, the whole lobby went silent. The teller who threw her ID suddenly looked pale, but Naya did not look at her. She was not there for revenge yet. She was there to see who was watching, who would act, and who would pretend nothing had happened. Because when you run a billion-dollar company, silence speaks louder than apology. The vice president moved quickly, approaching Naya with his hand outstretched. "Ms. Jameson," he said again, a little breathless, "my deepest apologies for the delay. We were expecting you in the conference suite upstairs." Naya shook his hand gently. Her face remained composed. "It is all right," she said. "I just needed to verify something at the counter." The vice president glanced at the counter. Amy was standing stiff now, her face flushed. Her fingers twitched. She avoided Naya's gaze. "Was everything handled correctly?" the vice president asked carefully. Naya smiled, but it was the kind of smile that does not reach the eyes. "I believe my ID was handled, though I had to retrieve it from the floor myself." The vice president blinked. His face darkened instantly. "On the floor?" Amy opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Naya turned toward the elevator. "Shall we?" The vice president followed her. A bank assistant trailed behind, nervous and sweating. He handed Naya a bottle of water, which she accepted without breaking stride. As the elevator doors closed, Naya finally allowed herself to exhale. But she was not angry. She was watching. Because Naya had learned something in her rise to CEO. True power is not just money, it is memory. And people remember how you made them feel. Upstairs, the conference suite looked like something out of a business magazine. Polished wood table, framed awards, an espresso machine humming quietly in the corner. 3 men in suits stood as she entered. "Ms. Jameson," said one, a tall executive from the European investment firm. "So glad you could make it." "I apologize for the delay. There was some confusion downstairs. Shall we begin?" They opened her portfolio. Slides displayed global shipping lanes, projections, logistics hubs. She knew it all by heart. She had built it from scratch. Contracts, routes, data, all stacked on nights she slept in her car with a cracked laptop. And they listened. But downstairs, Amy was pacing. The vice president had returned to her station and asked her to step into his office. "I need to understand something," he said tightly. "You dropped a CEO's identity card on the floor?" Amy stammered. I did not know who she was. She looked like someone faking an account. I get that all the time." "You threw it on the floor, Amy." "I did not throw it. I dropped it." The vice president leaned in. "While she was trying to move millions through our institution, we have footage. You humiliated a major client." Amy scoffed. Why would someone like her show up looking like that for a corporate meeting? The room fell quiet. The vice president sat back. "Exactly," he said. "That is the problem." Upstairs, the final handshake had just taken place. The European rep smiled. "We believe your company is going to redefine modern logistics. And as far as we're concerned, Hamilton First can manage the funding flow." Naya nodded. "May I take one final walk through your internal departments?" "Of course," the vice president said. "We would be honored." She moved through the halls, office by office, until she paused at the customer service floor. Amy was still at her station, eyes locked on her screen, tense, afraid to look up. Naya said nothing. She just stood silently and watched. Because power does not always need to speak to be felt. The room went still. Every bank employee around Amy shifted, fidgeted, lowered their eyes. The atmosphere grew so heavy you could hear the AC humming. Naya finally turned and walked away.
Amy thought it was over. She thought the quiet black woman she disrespected would disappear, just like they always do. But Naya Jameson had not walked away. She had simply stepped into a bigger room. While the bank prepared champagne for a $2 billion signing ceremony, Naya was across the city, making one silent move that would shake their foundation. Because when a woman carries pain without speaking, it is never weakness, it is strategy. And now, the silence was over. The marble lobby of Hamilton First Bank had returned to business as usual. Phones rang, footsteps echoed, pens clicked. But none of it felt normal. Not after what happened. Amy sat behind her desk, staring blankly at the screen. The reflection of her own shocked face looked back at her, still frozen, still reeling, from the moment the VP called that woman Ms. Jameson. And she knew. That wasn't just some woman off the street. That was power. And she had thrown that power's ID on the floor like trash. She felt a heat in her chest. Not shame, not quite. Something worse. Dread. She whispered under her breath, "Please, just let it go." But Naya was not the type to let it go. Across the city, a black SUV stopped in front of the glass-walled Lucent International Tower. A security guard opened the door and Naya Jameson stepped out. She was no longer carrying just a leather folder. She carried silence, grace, and the weight of every woman who had ever been told she didn't belong. Inside, the lobby opened to the 38th floor, home of Avalon Capital, a global tech-based finance group worth over $400 billion. In the boardroom, men in fitted suits and a poised woman in all white rose as she entered. The senior partner extended his hand. "Ms. Jameson," he said, "we've been waiting." Naya shook it once, firmly. Her voice was calm but unmistakable. "I do not want to work with institutions that tolerate subtle humiliation. My company moves millions. I carry hundreds of employees. If a teller cannot see that, then neither can their bank." The woman across the table gave a knowing nod. "We saw the video." Naya paused. "You... what?" "It reached us through a client who witnessed it live. He was standing near the deposit counter." Naya's chest tightened. She had said nothing to anyone. She had not posted, had not spoken, had not begged for justice. But the truth had traveled anyway, and Avalon had listened. The senior partner leaned forward. It is rare for someone to carry power like that without even raising their voice. The bank saw a woman to dismiss, but what we saw was a leader with composure, class, and memory. Naya's eyes glistened, but she blinked the emotion away. "I brought the revised agreement," she said, placing the folder on the table. "No middlemen, no delays, but only if Avalon is ready for something bigger than numbers." "We are," he said. "We're ready for legacy." Back at Hamilton First, the VP burst into the executive wing, holding a trembling printout. A cancellation. No explanation, no chance to explain. Naya Jameson had withdrawn the $2 billion onboarding and sent it elsewhere, somewhere quieter, smarter, better. The executive team scrambled. "She's already signed with someone else?" One assistant whispered, "I think she was spotted entering Avalon Tower 2 hours ago." Amy watched from the stairwell. She had never seen a man in a suit shake like that. She clutched her lanyard with white knuckles. What did I do? Meanwhile, in Avalon's Glass Innovation Wing, Naya walked beside the senior partner, watching interns and developers collaborate. "We're also launching a fund for women in underrepresented sectors. Would you consider mentoring?" Naya smiled softly. "I have always believed we rise by lifting others." He nodded. "That's why we chose you." As they passed a glass door, Naya paused. She looked out at the skyline. The same skyline where, just hours ago, someone dropped her name on the floor like trash. Now, it was etched into contracts worth billions. She never raised her voice. She never posted a single word. But by morning, the world was shouting for her. A security camera clip leaked overnight, showing the exact moment a bank teller dropped a black woman's ID on the floor like trash. No one helped. No one stood up, until the woman picked up her ID and walked away like a storm. Her name? Nia Jameson. And the internet had one question. How do you disrespect someone who owns everything? It started with one post. One clip, just 22 seconds long. A quiet lobby, a soft voice, a hand reaching down for a government ID that should never have been on the floor in the first place. Then came the caption. She said nothing, but this is why we need better. Posted anonymously by a client who had seen it all. The video spread like wildfire overnight. By sunrise, hashtag Nia Jameson was trending in 5 countries. People were angry, not just because of the way she was treated, but because they had seen this before too many times. A poised, professional black woman being dismissed for not fitting someone else's definition of power. News outlets picked it up within hours. Billion-dollar CEO demeaned by bank teller, then walks away silently and cancels deal. Podcasters dissected it. Bloggers wept while writing about it. CEOs began sharing their own quiet battles in corporate spaces. But Nia said nothing. She simply walked into her office that morning, nodded to her assistant, and began signing documents for her new mentorship program with Avalon. She was focused, calm, respected. But she knew what was coming. At Hamilton First, the boardroom was in crisis. Reporters had called, shareholders had sent emails, legal asked for statements. No one knew how to spin what the world had already seen with their own eyes. The footage had no sound, but it did not need sound, because humiliation does not need words to be recognized. Amy was suspended immediately. The VP released a brief apology on behalf of the institution, but no one cared, because it was not just about one teller. It was about a system that measured value by skin, status, and silence. And now, that silence was broken. Nia sat with her team in a quiet boardroom later that week. An intern knocked. "You're being asked to appear on CNN, NBC, and 3 business podcasts." Nia smiled gently. "Tell them, thank you, but I do not need a microphone to prove my worth." The intern blinked. "Should I prepare a statement?" She turned to the large window behind her desk. "No," she said softly. "My actions spoke loud enough." Then she opened her laptop and began reviewing applications for her new initiative, the ID Project, a $20 million program designed to give underserved entrepreneurs access to legal, financial, and mentorship tools to build their legacy. Because that ID, the one dropped on the floor, it was more than a card. It was a name, a life, a legacy, and no one would ever drop it again. If this story moved you, if you believe quiet strength is real power, please subscribe to our channel. We share true-to-life stories that restore dignity, inspire change, and make you feel something real. One story at a time, we remind the world what humanity looks like. Thank you for watching.